Green Bay hustle, grind it up. Hit the field, we don't bluff. Touchdown dances, feel the love. Jordan's got that MVP stuff. It's time for O, happy up, let's go. Packers bringing that show. It's time for O, you know who. Wanna go, gonna glow.
Aloha and welcome back to another episode of the Ohana Packers Edition podcast. Today, it's the big one, Iowa Joe. We are previewing week 7? week 8! Because we're 4-1-1, had the bye. Yeah, week 8. It's a week 8 Sunday night football game between the Packers and the Pittsburgh Steelers, as Matt LaFleur would like everyone to know. But I'm sure most of the NFL watching country is calling it the Aaron Rodgers against the Packers game. You know that's going to be talked about ad nauseum during the broadcast, before the broadcast, kickoff on Sunday, all that stuff. It's going to be everywhere. And this is going to be the only thing a lot of people are going to want to talk about ahead of the game. But hey, just more reason why the Packers need to win this one.
Well, it's not just that he was, Packers great, Hall of Fame quarterback and all that. But you also add in the fact that the Packers haven't won in Pittsburgh since 1970. You also have to add in the fact that Rodgers has beat 31 of 32 teams. So the Packers are the last team that he's got to. So there are a ton of storylines going on. I know people are calling it a revenge game and all that stuff, but if it's a revenge game, it's more his end than anything, because I think it was him that was a little bit more naysaying when he left than it was the organization. I mean, obviously we don't know what went on behind the scenes, but it sounds like he was more an issue than the Packers as a whole were. So, like I said, there's a lot of shit going into this one. I have to be truthful. I don't have the same feel on it as when Favre came back with the Vikings. Like I said, I don't think there's as many hard feelings as there were with that one. So it's not like he's straight coming back. Because whereas Favre kept saying he wanted to go to a team so he could play the Packers, Rodgers just wanted to go to a team to play. And it wasn't that he wanted to get revenge on the Packers for anything, whereas Favre was. So, I like I said, I don't have the same feeling for this one as I did when Favre first came back with the Vikings.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that the sentiment is kind of, like you said, it's way different. Whereas Favre really held on to they forced me out the door. I think Aaron, I do think he's being coy and doing the whole, he's not going to be the one to stir anything up before the game and all. And, if he's going to have his aha moment, it'll be after they've won, if Pittsburgh wins, and then he can kind of be like, well, see, I'm still the guy kind of thing. He'll kind of hindsight 2020 it, but, he's come out and done the whole, hey, he got about as close to saying the grass isn't always greener kind of thing and stuff. That's kind of how I took some of his comments to be. And, he didn't quite go so far as to take ownership for his part of it. But, he did say, cooler heads didn't prevail. And, there's been enough time to say, maybe it was best for both sides. He's kind of playing it that way. And I do appreciate that he's taking it that way, because I think he knows that, I think Aaron's at the point where he's too old to play the disrespect card kind of thing and all that stuff, at least ahead of the game, at least to the media.
And it helps that he didn't go to a rival team. It's not like he's on the Lions or he's on the Bears or he's on the Vikings or, God forbid, he's on the 49ers or something, and, we're talking at it a different light. So, and I know a lot of the Packers the players have come out and said that, they'll be happy to see him and shit like that. And I kind of mentioned in our group chat that I think a lot of the casuals are going to take a comment out of context and really rip Keyshawn Nixon on it, because he said that when he first signed with the Packers, he wasn't happy to be there and he didn't like being there. And stuff like that. But Aaron really kind of pushed him and turned things around for him. So, and LaFleur was again, go back to something that I've said a lot of times. All you're going to get from LaFleur is coach speak anyway. So he's going to play the political battle. He's got to do all that stuff. So he's not going to come and say, "Man, I'm glad we got rid of that asshole. He can go back and live in his fucking darkness retreat for all I care." He's not going to say something like that. But, it looks like both sides are being cordial. I do agree. You wonder how much he's going to do on field that might show, ha ha ha, Packers, you suck. You should have kept me. Are we going to see a return of the belt and celebration and shit like that?
Oh, if he scores, he definitely is doing it. There's no beats about it and stuff. I'm really curious to see how he is during this game. Like, if it's a competitive one, it's out. But like I said, my sentiment is I'd love to put that pouty face that we've gotten so used to seeing when a game isn't going right. I would love to be the team that puts that look on his face. Like I said, time is going to heal everything. He's going to come back. He's going to get his number retired. His name is going to go up on the facade and stuff like that. We're not quite there yet. We're much closer than I thought we'd be at this point. Like I said, I do think what has helped from a personal standpoint, what's helped me is like he's really slowed his roll on talking, between, putting things between the lines about the Packers and how the ship was run and things like that. I think he saw the other side of the other side and realized, like,
Yeah.
oh, like maybe I should be careful about who I think is kind of dumb and stuff and all, and like maybe he's not wrong, but maybe some other people are dumber kind of thing, and that's just where I'm going to leave that, and we can extend that conversation depending on how the game goes on Sunday. But it's going to be a big test for the Packers, like, outside of the Rodgersfication of it all. This is going to be an interesting meeting of like styles in terms of like the Packers offense against this Pittsburgh defense, which overall is like 19th in EPA, so not a very good unit. They're a very like boom or bust. Like they're gonna get sacks, get turnovers, or they're gonna give up a lot of points. And you saw that, you've seen that all season. Like, they get, what is it, like 2 or 3 turnovers and a bunch of sacks against the Jets, but give up 32 points to an offense that really hasn't done diddly poo since. You only give up 24 to the Seahawks because your Hawkeye had one of the bone brain special teams incidents, which just I think that was a take the cartridge out, blow in the contactor, and put it back in, because I was like, a Ferentz coached kid had that kind of brain fart. I was like, there was a rift in the universe on that one.
To be fair on him, and I think we've had this conversation before, because I think I remember the play. It was like a kickoff that bounced up over his head, and I don't think he's ever taken kickoffs before.
Right? Yeah.
So I don't, as least as far as I remember at Iowa, unless it was like his freshman or sophomore year, I don't remember
Right.
him taking kickoffs. And then, if I remember the play right, he just barely grazed his helmet. So I don't think he fully thought that he had got hit by the ball.
And I think, too, what threw him off is, like you said, he might have returned like a kick in college, but in college, if doesn't matter where the ball bounces, if it touches the end zone, it's dead, kind of thing. Whereas the new NFL rule is like, if it bounces in the field of play, you have to get it and down it, kind of thing. Like, that's part of the rules, and it's one of those where I know everyone's like, oh my god, but it's just the whole like, that's a rookie in his second game, like you said, doing something he really hasn't done in a new rule set that the whole league is still trying to figure out and all. Even at this point,
Okay.
Oh, go for it.
So his freshman year, he took 13 of them, and his sophomore year, he took 2 of them.
There you go. So it's been a bit.
If they play, 12 games in a season or 10 games in a season, that averages out to like maybe 1 a game or something like that.
But like, what I was saying is like, as far as the like new kickoff stuff goes, I'm still not sure how to like equate what is a good return, because before it was like it was so easy because it was like get to the 20, that's it, get past the 20 is a good return, and then it was get past the 25 because they changed the touchback rule. Now it's like people are like, oh, Savion and Bo Melton had a good return day, and I'm like, I'll take your word for it because I don't know what good is anymore. It's like, do you have to get past the 30? Do you have to get past the 35? But I think it's so like, if the ball bounces and the ball could be down at the 20, if you get past the 20, it's good. But if you take one that would have been a 35-yard line touchback, you have to get past it. So like the rules make it so convoluted. It's so like, wait, so which one is good? I'm at the point where I'm like, a kick return for a touchdown is good. Everything else, I'm like, whatever. Like,
Well, let me make it easy for you, Kawano. Any positive yardage by this kickoff return unit is a plus. Any negative yards is a minus. So just do like I do, go into it with that thought process, and they'll have success every time as long as there's no negative plays on there.
yep. So that's where we are with that. So yeah, like I said, on the defense side, the Steelers are pull the pin out of the grenade and toss it up in the air, and you don't know which way it's going to fall and land. And then on offense, where it is what has hurt the Packers? It's stopping like quarterbacks who get the ball out quick to receivers. And while DK isn't Jamar Chase, he is in that similar kind of thing where he can take a 2-yard pass and turn it into a 60-yard touchdown. Like he's done that a couple times this season. And LaFleur alluded to it today in his presser where he basically said, like, I forget who asked him if it was Huber or Demovsky, but somebody asked him, like, can you scheme anything up on him? And he's like, I mean, the dude's been in the league like 20, 21 years. No, like you don't, there's pretty much nothing he hasn't seen at this point. So it's going to be one where the defense has to be on its A game. You can't have the coverage busts that have plagued them for the past couple weeks. No loosey goosey zone handoffs or anything like that. It's got to be a well-oiled machine and a tightly run ship in this one, because you leave any an inch of opening, Rodgers is going to find it. Like his legs are kind of shot at this point. He same like Flacco, like I was saying in the 2 games he played. He don't want to get hit. He's going to do anything and everything to avoid taking a hit, especially if it's his own lineman jumping on his back. And what's it called? And I only saw it because Bakhtiari reposted it, and it's like, and he was on the Tundra podcast with Kuhn and was like, that was one of the funniest but dumbest things I've ever seen in a football game.
Yeah, because he tweeted that it gets funnier the more you watch it.
Yeah, it does.
And my thing is I understand the issue because obviously he doesn't want to get tackled by anybody. But when he was younger, he would have went with it.
Yeah, but it is just he's in year 21, not 1 anymore. So
yeah. Or I guess it depends on who it was. If it would have been Bakhtiari who had done it, they'd been still laying on the ground laughing.
Bakhtiari said he would have never done it. He wouldn't have done it as a rookie. He definitely wouldn't have done it now.
Well, the guy didn't do it on purpose, so it's
I think I think to take one from Zach Tom, he blacked out in the moment.
Well, it was more like he hit the turf monster, and just the momentum of a big body took them both over.
Just bowling pinned him. But, I expect this one to kind of be a barn burner shootout because Pittsburgh's not, this isn't the Pittsburgh defense of the 2000s or the 2010s where they were just snuffing the life out of the run game and putting the clamps down in coverage. This defense can be had, and it's the big thing. The big issue for the Packers is, how is this Green Bay O-line going to play? Are they going to shore up their deficiencies of the past few weeks and be able to block this front? Because not only do you have TJ Watt over Zach Tom, which is a concern, but you also have Nick Herbig coming off the other edge, Alex Highsmith, And, Rasheed Walker's had a rough couple of weeks, especially since he's been dealing with that quad injury. So he's going to have to be on his toe. Both of those tackles are going to have to be on their game. And this is for the whole season. If there's going to be a game where the run game needs to take off, this is the one. And we saw a Bengals team that couldn't run on a dead cat run on this Pittsburgh defense last week. And this is the moment for this Green Bay O line and for Jacobs to take command of a game and really just put it to an opponent.
This defense kind of, in a way, reminds me of a little bit of what we just dealt with the Cardinals. They've got some talent at corner. They got some talent up front. No, I was going to say that because they've got a little bit of the mixture of old and young. But now that I think about it, I'm thinking it's going to be more, probably closer to maybe Washington's with more of a pass rush.
I can see that. Yeah.
Because they've got some names. And the reason I'm saying that is because when you look up and down through Pittsburgh's defense, it's the Madden names. The names that you want to go out when you're playing Madden and you're constantly trading for, Herbig, Jalen Ramsey, Cameron Hayward, Alex Highsmith, Patrick Queen, Darius Slay. I think he's hurt, isn't he? Joey Porter Jr. Or is he?
No, Porter Jr. just came back, and that's what it was. He was hurt, and Ramsey had to play a lot of outside corner before and stuff. So Ramsey's like their nickel back now, and Porter Jr. and Slay are their outside corner, their perimeter corners. So, like you said, a lot of name power. Yeah.
Yeah, name power, and they are going to get theirs. Like you said, it's just how are the Packers' offense going to be able to handle that? They're going to get what they're going to get, but it's time for you to maybe do the dink and dunk and shit like that.
Yeah. On the Packers side, they're dealing with a bunch of. I still don't know how real a bunch of these injuries are. So you've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 guys with limited participation designations. So Banks groin, Belton ankle, Hobbs knee, Jacobs calf, McKinney ankle knee. Not great. I do think they're still being just over reporting though. Zach Tom. Now they're putting a back for Zach. That's not ideal. What's it called? Christian was a limited participant, and Evan Williams with the back, and Devontae Wyatt with the knee. So you really hope you can get Wyatt back, even if it's for super limited, like 10 snaps or whatever. Those can be a real interior pressure is what gets these older quarterbacks like Rodgers. And if you can get 10 good pass rush snaps out of Wyatt this weekend, that's an absolute win for you.
Basically, I've been making the joke that the Packers are getting to the point of the season where they're going to start listing even like pro shop worker injuries, and Jim from the pro shop has a strained wrist, or Kelly
LaFleur with a migraine from answering too many Aaron Rodgers questions.
Yeah, so I'm with you. I don't know how many of these are just being overly cautious and not wanting to get in trouble with the league if they don't list them, or if they're legit. Now, the couple, and I know you're going to get into this, but the couple that I'm a little bit more concerned about would be obviously any of your offensive linemen, but Brandon McManus is still out. And he still did not practice. Has there been any talk with what's going on with him?
So they said that. So I know that we've never gotten this kind of insight into the kicking schedule, but usually his kicking days are Wednesday and Friday. But almost all the beat reporters said that the plan is for him to kick. Well, we're recording on Wednesday. So when you're listening to this, hopefully Thursday, he's supposed to kick at Thursday's practice. That's the report. Personally, I think he's going to be out again this week because Acrisure, I think is what I'm just gonna call it Heinz. I've known it as Heinz my whole life, or its whole
Fuck it, it's the
existence.
ketchup bottle. I don't care.
Yeah, yeah. So it's one of the hardest places to kick because of the whole like I've seen that graphic so many times of how, especially on the open end of the stadium, it faces the mouths of the three rivers that meet outside of or in Pittsburgh, and so kicking in that stadium is a different kind of a hellhole. And so I can see the want for a veteran kicker, but the turf at that field has been especially bad. We're talking Soldier Field bad. Usually it's in a tier separated from Soldier Field, but it was to the point that when the Steelers played the Browns 2 weeks ago, both teams submitted issue notices with the turf conditions. So even the home team was like, this sucked. Coming off of a game against Arizona where Arizona's field looked like crap from the opening. Guys were slipping and sliding all day. They show the picture of when Havrisik went out to go tie the game, and then they're calling the tie. And the picture shows him looking back at the sideline. There's so many divots and kicked up turf all over the place around him, and so I can see this being one where I have no idea how kicking, winding up full speed to kick a field goal affects your leg muscles and stuff. It's the quad on his kicking leg. And I can just see where they're like, you know what? Havrisik is doing well enough that let's give the kid some rope. Let's make sure McManus is fully healthy. Honestly, this is one I want to see Havrisik kick in, because if he shows that he can hit some field goals in this stadium, I know it's not supposed to be a bad weather game, and that's what everyone's like, oh, like the bad weather game, how is he going to handle it? If he can kick in this stadium, that opens the doors for some really interesting conversations in my book, because as much as everyone's like, oh, you have to see how Havrisik kicks in the bad weather, let's not forget that McManus missed a field goal too in the playoff game last year, and kickers old kickers don't kick in the cold very well. Like, your muscles ache. He's already got aching muscles. The ball starts to feel like a brick when you go up to kick it. And I don't think the advent of the new kicker ball, the K balls, are going to change a lot of that come December time for the Packers. So if, Havrisik could go out there and have one of those, that's basically a rookie kicker in a bad kicking stadium. But if he handles it, and one thing that a couple other podcasters have noted is he's not like sneaking these ones in. He's been pretty much dead down the center, and I know that was one of the things you like with Carlson. That was one of your like uh-ohs. Is like that thing was like a wayward horse. Like, it would be going left, it'd be going right. If the last one went right, the next one was going way left. Like, that was always your thing. His have been almost all dead down the center. I think his last PAT last week was the only one where it kind of slid right after it went through, but it's because he's one of those guys that on the PAT he kicks from the left hash through kind of thing and stuff, so his ball is going to naturally fade through there. So, I know a lot of people are like kind of starting to hand ring over it. To me, the way I look at it is Havrisik, if he acclimates well in this, you have a couple choices. You can tell Brandon, your quad's fucked up, you're going on IR. Or he's already been paid his guaranteed money off of his deal, and because he's over a 10-year veteran, he's not subject to the waiver system if he's released. So you can have different conversations with Brandon and be like, hey, I know we just gave you the 3-year extension, but I don't think the Packers wanted him to be the kicker in 3 years. Like, that's just my thing. That's a 3 years to find the next guy kind of thing. That's how I read it in my book. And maybe circumstances forced evolution in this sense. And, I'm not going to make the sweeping declarations off of 2 games, but the arrow's pointing pretty far up for Lucas at this point. So
I was going to
yeah.
say, I'm not overly. I still cringe anytime I see him go out there, because
Right.
you wonder if.
When's the house of cards coming down?
Right. Is he out kicking his coverage? Is he performing way above what he is, and he's going to come crashing down kind of like the Corey Bojorquez thing when he was punting, you know, for the Packers. Great, great, and then all of a sudden it just disappeared.
Yeah, the air went out of the balloon.
But I was looking at the weather. It doesn't look like it's, according to AccuWeather, it's supposed to be 44 and the wind is 6 mile per hour with 14 mile per hour gust and only a 1% rain chance. So it should be pretty fairly good for them over there. And
Yep.
that is Pittsburgh. I made sure I put in Pittsburgh. I'm looking at the Iowa.
Yeah. So like I said, the sicko in me wants to see him get another chance because this is the kind of like everyone's kind of like, oh, you need a kicker, and when are you gonna find one? You might have dumb lucked your way into a second one, and the only way you're gonna find out is if you give him the opportunities. And like I said, I don't know which way they're gonna go. I do think they're gonna ride it out as long as they can to where like it's. I don't think they're moving Haversick until McManus is like totally off the injury report. That's my read on it.
Do
And
you think with this, there's a possibility they could carry two kickers on Sunday?
I think there's a chance, especially because you look at the injury report. What's it called? LaFleur has already stated that it's unlikely that Van Ness makes it back for this week. We have no update for the second week in a row on Dontavian Wicks. Unlike last week where he practiced on Wednesday, he did not practice today on Wednesday. So we have no clue where he's at in terms of his coach. So you might have two guys down already at this point. And so you basically just need to find three more guys. And so Devontae might be one if he can't go. If he can go, then you're looking at some combination of like Kamal Haddon. So that's an easy one. Kamal Haddon is one, so that's three. And then two more is like Ben Sims and maybe Belton if he's not ready, kind of thing. Or Donovan, like Belton or Donovan Jennings, whichever one. Like whichever one's not like if Belton's healthy, he's up. If he's not healthy, Jennings, you're up, kind of thing and stuff. So like they've got even if they activate Watson and they need a spot, there are guys on this roster who don't need to be up. And then you get into the like maybe you cut a Kamal Haddon to bring Watson up, and then it's like maybe Malik sits this week kind of thing. And like, on one hand, Malik's been a solid trooper. He's made some plays for the team this season, been his usual ass kicker as a run blocker. But hey, if that forces LaFleur to, the Wicks injury and stuff, actually, no, they wouldn't have. No, scratch that. They wouldn't have Heath sit even if Watson is up because in this scenario where Wicks is out, they're not going in without because I don't think they view Savion as a full receiver yet. So they're like, we have 5 plus Savion. That's how they want to go into each game. That's kind of the way that I think of it in terms of the way they're operating. So until they consider Savion a 5th receiver, I don't see them keeping out Heath if Wicks is down and Watson is up. So, but they're going to have ways to find a 5th guy to sit to keep both kickers up. I don't think that's going to be a problem. It gets a little.
I just wondered if it's a possibility just because, if Haversick does regress somehow during the Steelers game, bring McManus in and let him take over and see what he does, or even the other way. If McManus is out starting and the quad starts cramping on him, then you have Haversick that can come in and take over.
Honestly, I know this would like make a lot of people cringe, but I was like, if they're both up, I'm making McManus kick the first kickoff because it's like, obviously coverage team, go make the tackle, but that's the most exertion he's gonna put on his body, and it's like that's how you're gonna find out if he's really. He can say all he wants, he's good to go, I'm ready, blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff, but he could go kick off and take 2 steps and be like, I'd see, especially because it's gonna be 44 degrees and stuff like that. You're a kicker. you're not going to ride the bike because you need the elasticity in your leg and all that kind of stuff. So it's like you got to stay warm, but you also like can't do the things other guys do to stay warm and stuff. So it's like, yeah, this isn't like this isn't like Major League Baseball where it's like go back to the clubhouse and stay warm in the clubhouse kind of thing and stuff. You can't do that. So
No, they just throw a heating pad on it like they did
yeah,
Jacobs.
or like who was the Seattle punter that they were making fun of when the Seahawks played the Packers in 2007? They're like, he's wearing the electric underwear.
Was that Ryan?
No, Ryan was still with the Packers at that point because they had just found Ryan that year. It was I can't remember who it was. It was some old punter, but I vividly remember Rich Eisen making joke after joke about the heated underwear in that game. But suffice it to say, they're gonna figure it out. I think the most likely outcome is that he gives it a go in pregame warmups again, and they just inactivate him again, kind of thing.
Oh, I'm not saying that they're going
Yeah.
to. I just wonder if this could be a week that they try it.
Yeah. Where I will agree with you is this, especially if Watson isn't back this week, this might be the best last week to do it because once you start to bring Watson back, the number crunch gets a little more crunchy and you have a little less flexibility in terms of who's a healthy sit. And that's the thing is like if Wyatt's back, you're going to have all the D linemen up because you're not going to act, especially because you have no Lucas, you have no Van Ness. So that's one of your like ends who would come inside on the cheetah package. So that option's out. And then you need 70 snaps and you rotate your guys as often as you do. And you're only going to get 10, maybe 12 to 15 tops on Wyatt, unless the game is just like a blowout in either direction kind of thing. And then you're kind of like, oh, just go get conditioning in kind of thing. So yeah, I think the only way Wyatt plays like 20 snaps is if Green Bay is just smoking the Steelers and they're like, okay, you don't got to worry about the run. Just go chase Rodgers like as many snaps as you can get, big guy kind of thing. So, but that all that to say that I expect both Brinson and Stackhouse to be up.
Yeah, I
And
mean, if any
yeah,
of them is going to sit, it would be probably Stackhouse more than Brinson at this point.
yeah,
But yeah, I think so.
but it's going to be an interesting game. Here we are talking about kickers, as Rich Eisen would say, punters and kickers are people too. But focusing back in on this Pittsburgh defense, like I said, it's they rank fifth in opponent. So the good for them is they're fifth in opponent red scoring, but they're 19th in opponent's points per game. So like they hold you if you get down to the red zone, but they'll give up a big play to give you a touchdown. So that's how you read that one. They are sixth in sack percentage, only 14th in interception rate, but then they're 31st in passes per game allowed, 31st in pass yards per game allowed, 22nd in pass yards per pass, opponent yards per pass allowed, 18th in completion percentage. And then in the run game, they're 20th in yards per carry, 19th in rushes per game, and 17th in rush yards per game. So they're giving 100 and just under 116 on the ground and just under 259 in the air. So, like I said, you put all these pretty numbers out, it all comes back to can the Packers O line do enough in both phases of the game? Can you wear out this front in the run game? And can you pass protect well enough when you have your opportunities to take your shot plays? And in between those, you alluded to it earlier, the Packers need to do their own job getting back to the quick pass game, get the ball out, not have Love looking downfield and having no check down option. Just get some drives going. Try to possess the ball on your side of the offense because that's the other thing is like Rodgers wants the ball out so quick. It's like the old like Manning defense where it's like take the ball first, possess it for 8 minutes, score, and then hopefully he's been sitting for so long, especially because it's a night game. They'll literally be cold at that point. So
And hopefully there's no plane malfunctions this time.
well, just take the Greyhound at this point. Don't even chance any of that crap already.
But I want to throw another stat out there that I find kind of interesting. and this is on Pro Football Reference, and this is something LaFleur needs to really pay attention to if I'm reading this right. Their defense is allowing 64.7% of fourth down conversions. So if it gets to the point where you're at like 4th and 2, 4th and 3 even, I would consider more going for it depending on how deep you into whichever territory. But obviously, if you're on your own 10-yard line, maybe not try going for it. But if you're sitting at the 50 and you're 4th and 2, if they're giving up almost 65% of fourth down conversions, I would consider going for it more often than not.
Yep. So, the other angle is, yeah, just take care of the football. And that's on two sides. Jordan's got to make good decisions. I guess three. Jordan's got to make good decisions. LaFleur's got to call a game that's going to match what Pittsburgh wants to do to you. And like I said, this O-line can't let him get mollywopped. Like, it's not a good sign that Love was, dealing with pressure against a Cardinals defensive front that it's kind of the same. It has more names than it does have truly, like, proven players. Not, I don't want to say proven, but like in their prime disruptor havoc players at this point of their careers kind of thing. Like Josh Sweat is a nice player, one that I wanted in free agency, before I would have ever known, expected, or believed Parsons to be a reality. And that's the thing too, is like Calais Campbell did all sorts of unspeakable things to Jordan Morgan last week. This defensive line, I don't know what that was. This defensive line is going to, I don't know what that was. This defensive line is going to try and put the hurt on this interior offensive line. Cam Hayward is going to bring every trick in the book in a similar way that Calais Campbell did on Jordan Morgan. And then Keanu Benton and Derek Harmon are two guys who can just collapse the pocket with the best of them. And I see a lot of people lauding Morgan for shoring things up and stuff. You look at a lot of the play, and just go check out Mike Wall's breakdown of film study from the game. There's a lot of plays where Morgan's getting his lunch handed to him and thrown on his back kind of thing. Even some of his better blocks are like he's beat and he kind of throws a guy down, like legally. He does kind of like a snatch technique, and some people are like, oh, like good presence of mind, but I'm like, he's not supposed to be giving 4 yards off the line of scrimmage to make that move. Like, you need to be doing that a step into the play kind of thing and stuff. So, I guess the mental side of it is better with Morgan in there, but I don't know. Like, I don't like that he's getting manhandled almost at will. But, hopefully a new week is a new leaf turned over and he's learned from his mistakes and, can make some technique improvements. But that'll be the thing that I'm keeping an eye on is, can the Packers win up front against this Pittsburgh defense? If they can, if this is a game where you can get Jacobs in the 5 yards per carry range and you can even get Emmanuel Wilson popping off some runs, shoot. I'm sorry, Jordan. I don't care if you throw the ball only 10 times on Sunday. If you can just grind this Pittsburgh defense into submission, do it that way. I don't care. Like I said, I don't care about style points, whatever, the spread. I just want the Packers to win this weekend. I need this win like oxygen. So LaFleur's, like you said, we've alluded to it. LaFleur's got to be on his A game, and he's got to be willing to junk his week-long ski. Yeah, his script. Because that was one of the things he said about the Bengals game is like, we came in expecting single high and all this kind of stuff, and they came out playing 2-man under, and it took us a while. And I'm kind of like, okay, it shouldn't take you a whole half to adjust to that. And the other side of that coin is like, how much of the adjustments are Trey Hendrickson being old and having a back injury kind of thing. So you worry about that side of it. And like I said, this O-line just, you hope that another week is another week healthier for Zach Tom, another week healthier for Aaron Banks, and another week of continuity, familiarity playing together. The person who's benefited most from it is definitely Elton Jenkins. He looks so much more at ease in the middle now. oh shoot, like doing the like who's blocking the nose tackle, who's blocking the nose tackle. Oh shoot, that's me, kind of thing. Like I do think there was a bunch of that for him because his play has really settled in. You haven't heard his name called as much anymore the past couple weeks, so really just hoping that more continuity helps out this offense. Defensively, as we alluded to, Rodgers is like third in the NFL in rate of getting the ball out, from snap to throw. And the two guys quicker than him are Mahomes, which will probably normalize because he's starting to get weapons back. He was doing that because no Rasheed Rice, no Xavier Worthy. So it's like he's throwing to the corpse of Travis Kelsey and a bunch of other no names. And then the other guy is Dylan Gabriel, who's got all of 3 starts under his belt. And he's doing it because he just lacks the arm strength and prowess to make throws down the field as an NFL quarterback. So it's like, and then it's Aaron Rodgers. So, you know, Aaron is just thinking the game at this point. We saw him uncork a couple really nice passes. His Hail Mary at the end of the game last week is like the longest throw tracked by Stat Tracker or whatever service and stuff. So, he's still got the arm, but he doesn't want to get hit. And, he's not going to run at this point of his career. If he does, he's going to make it like 2 yards and slide because he can't move as well as he used to.
Or right out of bounds.
Yep. So this is a hard one because you'd love to be able to get pressure with your front four so that you can put as many guys in coverage. You can buzz Quay and Edge underneath these quick outside routes because, as we know, being Packers fans, the middle of the field doesn't exist to Rodgers. Like he still has his rules that I used to joke that he's Batman, but in the bad way. As the Joker says in Dark Knight, like you with your rules, you can't hurt me. And until proven otherwise, that's how you've got to approach this game. Is that everything's going to be outside the hash marks. Most of it's going to be outside the numbers. He's going to try and outthink you in the game. And this is one where you've got to be the hammer in this one and be the aggressor in coverage and bring the heat. And this is going to be potentially a big Micah Parsons game because while, it's nice how Rashawn collapses the pocket, it's nice what Wooden and Brooks put in some really nice tape last week. Brinson has flashed a few times. Guys like Parsons, Edge, or Quay who can teleport into the backfield. And if you can get Devontae with some juice in his legs, those 4 guys are the ones who can win you this game from a pressure standpoint. You get that quick pressure, and this is where it's good that Parsons rushes off of the front side of a right-handed quarterback is because he's in your face, and then Quay and Edge blitz up the middle. Devontae comes from the interior pass rush. So that's how you get to a guy like Rodgers that's how you always get the elite quarterbacks. You get that interior pressure. You make them unsettled in the pocket. But especially at his advanced age, not wanting any sort of contact, you just gotta get pressure in his face as fast as you can. And Rodgers has never been the best screen pass thrower. Like it's the weirdest thing. I think it's because he tries to be too precise with the throw. But you start getting pressure in his face, and he'll start yanking a couple of them. And we've seen it in the past. And like I said, the goal is to put that pouty face on him as early as you can in the game. Like, it's one of the things that I could never excuse or justify, but like there was always a point where he would kind of just phone it in and be like, well, there's always another game kind of thing and stuff. And especially at 41, it's kind of like, I know this game means a lot to him, but if the offense can go up like 14-zip, 14-3, and you start really putting pressure on him, it's cold, it's 44. I don't know if there's any potential wind chill. You can make him potentially, not quit, but like, I might let go of this thing a little bit early or throw it a little wide because, I'm not about that life anymore thing and stuff. So the one thing to know is Chris Boswell is still one of the best kickers in the NFL. I mean, the Steelers won week one because he just booted a 60-yarder, granted in the Meadowlands, but he continues to be one of the best kickers because half his games are in Pittsburgh and he just knows how to read the wind and the field in that stadium so well. So basically, if Pittsburgh crosses midfield, they're in field goal range for Boswell. So this is a bounce back game for Halfley. And I know the elephant in the room is Ellis Hobbs, or not Ellis Hobbs, Rog Hobbs. That's I'm just dating myself, calling him as Nate Hobbs. And I know to the consternation of a lot of Packers fans, they're not gonna just turn to Carrington Valentine or call up Micah Robinson or anything like that. I do think, I don't know if justified is too strong of a word, but I think what the Packers' approach is that Hobbs got knee surgery at the opening of training camp. So he missed preseason, missed all of that training camp work. And they're looking at it like, okay, he is like in the ramp up right before the season section. And it's not great. And I do wish he had a tighter leash or a quicker hook. But their thinking is we're willing to sacrifice some plays here and now so that he's up to snuff and full go when we get into the meat of this NFC portion of our schedule. And I I totally agree with either side of the art. Well, I won't say I totally agree with the like he needs to play side of it. I do think that if he's just actively not got it, you've got to go in a different direction and give your team a chance to win the game because the name of the game is winning. But I
Well, no, the name of the game is football.
so I understand what the team is doing. I do think there is some value in like he's at the point he's not gonna get any more conditioned or in game shape without playing in the game. And at the same time, I do agree with the fans who are like you said, like you still gotta try to win. It's the whole why don't you get up and then let him get his conditioning in while you're salting away a game, that kind of thing and stuff. And I know that the intensity isn't the same and all, but I do hope that this is a week where if he shows early he doesn't have it, they're more willing to make some rotation, especially because outside of DK Metcalf, this receiving room isn't anything to write home about. I know Calvin Austin is supposedly coming back. He's a little June bug. He's like 5'6", and I know that it gives Rodgers some like Cobb, Ty Irvin, memory trips down memory lane kind of thing. That's not a guy who you should be allowing to beat you. Same with Roman Wilson at this point of his career, who barely played because of hamstring issues last year. Their passing offense is pretty much centered around DK Metcalf, Pat Fryermuth, and Jalen Warren. Yeah. And those are the guys you need to be able to stop. This is one, honestly, I know Halfley is a zone guy. I know the field kind of would call for more zone and stuff. I kind of want to see him play a little more man this week, or at least more tight man match concepts and like bracket DK and pay some attention to the tight ends and stuff. And just, like I said, you know how Rodgers wants to function. You buzz Williams or McKinney into the robber zone to kind of like make him realize his worst fears in terms of like throwing over the middle of the field late. But just like play to his dislikes and really try to like bring out his worst habits because the places the Packers have their playmakers are the areas where Rodgers likes to avoid, but also has had some of his best success in the recent years. Like that throw he ripped to Pat Fryer. The 2 touchdowns are on like post routes that he rips to the middle of the field. You have either Williams or McKinney buzzing to the robber position, or Quay or Edge dropping to a deep hook. You kind of make him look elsewhere, and then like everyone's like, "Oh, these corners suck." So it gives Rodgers even more reason to look on outside routes, and I'd just be squatting on everything that breaks outside in this game, and just let your safeties save you if DK goes on a double move kind of thing. That's the approach that I'd have in this game. Anything that's sticking out to you for this one though?
I just want to throw out there that all the ones that are talking about that they signed Hobbs to be a nickel, so move him to nickel. That's not so easy to do considering how well Javon Bullard has been playing this year. So if you move him to nickel, then you made a hole on the outside. What do you do with Bullard after that? And I know some people, well, you make a competition. This isn't the time of season to be making a competition out of anything. You want your best 11 guys out on the field. So then what? You're going to sit Hobbs. Well, then you got to play either Carrington Valentine or Bo Melton or bring up Micah Robinson. So right now it's pretty much you just got to ride with Hobbs unless I know there's rumors out there that the Packers are kind of targeting the trade market. I don't know how well that's going to go for them with, you know, I really don't know. I don't know who's be available that could help them right away. I saw that there's a possibility that the Jets are listening on, was it Michael Carter the second?
And even that, he's a nickel. He's more of a nickel type.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah.
So and then like Miami is supposed to be in quote unquote fire sales. So I mean, I suppose you could try to bring Razul in, but really, how much does Razul have?
I know, like people are like, "Oh, he's playing the best out of he's one of the best defenders." But I'm like, yeah, Miami's a sad sack of potatoes right now. So like, that's a low bar to clear. I mean, if Halfley signs off on it, why not? Like the asking price for Razul at this point of his career on a 1-year deal can't be much more than a ham sandwich. Like you send the conditional 7th round pick 2 years from now kind of thing, and like it's like that's it. That's the take it or leave it kind of thing. Yeah, like I said, I think if they're gonna find a corner, it's gonna be a street free agent, and it's too late this week. Like you're rolling with what you got at this point because you needed to bring whether it was via trade or via street agent, that person needed to be here for today, Wednesday's practice.
Right.
Like it's too late for that.
I
So
know who they need to go get just because of the name Storm Duck.
another former Dolphin. So they're gonna roll with what they got. Like I said, we can talk till we're blue in the face. I do think there is some value in like, and it's not a justify the signing. They have at least another year for that, but we've seen what Hobbs can be when he's at his best, and I just don't think he's right physically yet. I think it's partly conditioning, partly like the back shoulder throw he gives up to Harrison Jr. That's a feel like like he's in position until he's not on that play, and it is one of those like, I mean, how many one-on-one go balls can you cover when you're recovering from Arthur? And that's the thing is like when you get a knee scope, you can't run, you can't do footwork drills, you can't do any of those things. So it's like he was off his feet. I guess you can do pool work, but it's like you're not running and you're not you can do the steps, but you're not like cutting on grass or turf kind of thing. So it's kind of a moot point and stuff. So like I said, they're at the point where he can only get better by playing. Like he can only get his timing, get his
You
his
hope
feel.
you can only get better.
Right, yeah. I should say that's the only way you're gonna find out. Like you're not gonna find out by just sitting him on the bench and like, in 2 weeks you turn him over and it's like, oh, he's done. Like let's put him back in the game kind of thing. Yeah, like they've got to get it figured out. But like I said, this division race is getting really interesting, and you've got to just keep stacking wins.
If nothing else, just a rotation like they have been doing for a while. Keep Rodgers guessing. If he knows he's got a weak target out there, he's going to target it. He's going to go for that weak spot. So, all right, we're about out an hour, so let's move on to our. I think we've rambled on this one. You got anything else you want to throw out there?
Nope.
Okay, I do have some over-unders here, so kind of simple, really. Micah Parsons over under 1.5 sacks. Obviously, he had the best game of his career against the Cardinals. Um, you hope that's just a sign of things to come. Maybe he can have another career best against the Steelers. Because as far as I know, they still don't have a great offensive line.
The right tackle Fatanu is a prospect I really liked. Honestly, I wanted him to be our pick last year, and Pittsburgh took him one pick ahead of ours. So, damn it, Dad. But he's basically a rookie. I don't know if he was on IR necessarily last year, but he pretty much missed all of the rookie season with injury. Pretty similar to Morgan, honestly. And then Broderick Jones, the left tackle, has okay, like with how quick Rodgers is getting rid of the ball, he's still averaging like 3 pressures allowed a game or something like that, which is just one of the wildest stats you could possibly have in the NFL. Is like your quarterback is getting rid of it faster than all but 2 players, and you still give up a handful of pressures every game, which is not good. The big one for the Steelers, and for the point that we were talking about, interior pressures in the game, their center, Zach Frazier, who has been an absolute diamond in the rough stud from he's a sophomore, second year player this season. He popped up with a calf injury that the Pittsburgh beat seemed to be a little bit caught off guard on. So, we'll see. It's so early in the week, and he could be a full participant by Friday, but it's one where the beat seemed to be pretty surprised because they didn't think he was injured during the game, and obviously Pittsburgh had like the Monday unofficial practice that they don't have to put out an injury report because it's not an official practice. So that'd be a big one. Suffice it to say, I'm going to continue with my trend from last week, and I'm going to pick the under as a reverse jinx. I know some will complain that you can't call it a reverse jinx if you're saying it's a reverse jinx, but yes, I am going to
Who
call it
makes up the
a reverse
rules?
jinx.
We do whatever the hell we want. I'm going to go over. I'm going to say he gets 2 this week. I don't. Rodgers never was the fastest quarterback in the world, but he had the ability to get out and about. But obviously, he's up there in age where he's not moving as well as he can. Yes, he can get out the ball quickly, but I think you can also rattle him a little bit. So if he's getting a little bit hit, you're going to get yours once in a while. So yeah, I'm going to go over. Next one, Josh Jacobs over under 50.5 rushing yards.
I've got the over.
Go ahead.
I'll go for it. I'm going to go over. And the only concern I have is the lingering injury, but I think he's going to get it because I think this rush defense is that bad.
I'm not saying they're not bad, but I wonder if it's going to end up being one of them rotational deals where he's going to bump Wilson and Brooks once in a while just to get them touches and to not overexert Jacobs. I got it set at 50.5. I will take the over, but I'm not. I would say it's going to end up being like 65 to 70, just because I think LaFleur is going to, like I said, mix in Wilson and Brooks, and then he's going to do some end around shit and stuff like that. So I think that'll hinder in. So my next one, I got Golden over under 30.5 receiving yards. The reason I got it set so low is because for some reason he disappeared in the second half of the Cardinals game, and I don't see him on the injury report, so I can't say that it was an injury, but it's still kind of confusing as why he just all of a sudden disappeared and wasn't getting targets and wasn't getting touches. I'm going to
He had a big donut
over.
in his game. He had the 3 catches on the opening drive, and then he had that catch to set up Jacobs' first touchdown. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to take the over just because it's wishful thinking. I'm really hoping that he can finally have his breakout game. I'd probably say it'd be about 55 yards. I'm hoping it'll be a touchdown with it. So
Yep.
I've got kind of. Go ahead.
Oh, no, and I've got the over. Great minds think alike. I've got 50.
So I've got a couple of more. This one's more of a yes or no, and the other one's just kind of a goofy one. So the yes or no is, does Watson play?
I got yes, and that was before he came out and said his aim is to play this week.
I don't know. I'm still up in the air about it because even if he doesn't play, doesn't he have to be activated Monday no matter what?
Yeah, but I'm not concerned because, like, people are like, oh, what does it mean? The the practice window is to allow a guy to ramp up without taking up a roster spot, kind of
Right.
thing. Yeah, so I'm not at all concerned. Even if he's not ready and is going to be a scratch kind of thing, they're going to activate him because if you don't, he's lost to IR for the rest of the season, kind of thing and
Well,
stuff.
yeah, that's
So
what I was more meaning. Not that
yeah,
I'm worried about an issue with Watson, but it was more that even if he doesn't play Sunday, they still have to activate him by Monday. I'm going to go the safe spot. I'm going to say no. And I'm going to say that they're going to wait until the last minute to have to activate him and then get him ready for the game following. What is that
and I
game?
can totally see it
Yeah, Tuesday.
because you know what kind of honestly came true is that we were talking about that Arizona field cost it kind of cost. Oh shucks, why am I? It cost Tunyon his career,
Yeah.
and it was pretty brutal on Sunday as well. So, and like I said, this Pittsburgh field hasn't been great either. And yeah, it does make you wonder: do they just wait till you're in the home confines of Lambeau on November 2nd? So, I could see it. And as much as thought Watson looks great for a guy so fast off of the knee surgery, the injury and surgery he had, I totally understand why the team would be like, yeah, he looks great, he's moving great. We're still gonna keep to the 9 month window and stuff. So, and that shouldn't perturb anyone. Like, this is the thing with Watson is like the theory of Watson is absolutely excellent for this offense. That said, they have not had him for either of the playoff runs that the team has made while he's been Packer. Last year, he tragically blown his knee out in week 17 again, or week 18 against the Bears. And then there, but he was still dogged by the hamstring injury that he like aggravated in the Kansas City game, like the back third of that season. And as much as I'm saying he'll be back, there's also a part of me that's like, yeah, but for how long until the next thing happens? And I hate talking about players like that. You're already seeing people like totally writing off Marshawn Lloyd for similar reasons and stuff. And Lloyd needs to go to whatever doctor or clinic that Watson was at last year to fix his hamstrings. Lloyd needed to be there last offseason, but it is one of those where it makes you wonder: is Watson on a pitch count the whole time he's back, no matter what, kind of thing? And like, it would be prudent because it's ACL repair, and you're never fully back until like 2 years after, and all that kind of stuff. But we'll see. And I'm hopeful. I'm in a hopeful mood, kind of thing.
And to kind of go back to something else that you said, you mentioned the Tunyon one in Arizona. I didn't remember this until somebody mentioned it on one of the social medias. This is the same field that they lost Jordy Nelson on for the year.
Yep.
So, but I just think that they're going to be conservative. Anybody who paid attention kept saying that the earliest he was going to be back was like Halloween. So this just fits that narrative right there. And I could just see them waiting until the last minute on Monday to activate him for the next game.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I trust that they're not going to activate him just to activate him so he can say he beat the timeline, kind of thing and stuff. If he's active, it's because he's like ready to go. And ready to go is like he's also out there for like 10, 15 plays. And you just hope that, like, if he gets 3 targets, I don't care. Obviously, it'd be great if he catches one of them, but I just care that 2 of them are bombs. Because it's like, you just get him out there, and it's the like, Christian, you run. Jordan, you throw it as far as you fucking can, and if you catch it, great, kind of thing. If not, it falls incomplete and stuff.
Or just be a
But
decoy for Golden.
yeah, And at worst, you put the fear of God in the Pittsburgh defense, and it changes how they defend you and all that kind of stuff. So,
All right, so I got one goofy one, and just because it's the Pittsburgh team, and because there's a certain player on the Steelers that people still can't seem to get over. So this isn't an in-game one, so we don't even have to keep track on this because I know what they're going to talk about in-game, so it's not even a fair comparison. But how many times Packers social media, the fans, what are we going to see more of? Rodgers' revenge game or TJ Watt could have been a Packer? Because I've already seen both of them.
I think the Rodgers one, just because it is the new one, but you know that if like TJ Watt, forget gets a sec, if he just sneezes on Jordan, oh, he should be a Packer. It's gonna be there and stuff. It's the dumbest, lowest hanging fruit, but you know it's just there. And
I think
yeah,
it's going to be that one because I don't think, like I said, when we first started talking, recording, I said there's not the same feel of Rodgers against the Packers as it was Favre against the Packers. So I have a feeling that more social media stuff is going to be talking about TJ Watt because what's going to happen is Nate Hobbs is going to get burnt or Nixon's going to have something happen or whatever. And the Kitty or Kevin, Jesus, I can't even say his name. Kevin King's name is going to be brought up, and that's going to open up a whole can of worms on.
yeah, I'm done with that series too. Oh boy, like you said, we're pushing to the hour 10 minute mark. You got anything else for this game?
For the game, no. But I do want to say this because I do keep track of analytics on the pod and all that stuff. We have a couple of listeners from Germany, and I think that's amazing. So if you're listening to this and you're from Germany, reach out to us, and if we can find out who you are, maybe we can get like Kawano to sing Dunkashane for you,
Oh my god.
and we'll get him some like Lederhosen, and he can sing Dunkashane and his best Wayne Newton impression. But
I'm gonna sound
really,
like Wayne. I'm gonna sound like Wayne Newton getting eaten by the Dilophosaurus.
but I mean, just reading some of the or seeing some of the analytics, there's like we've had one listen in France and Spain, and we've got a steady following over in Ireland, and like I said, now we're picking up in Germany. So reach out. That's amazing.
Most excellent. And on that note, we're gonna call it a night. Joe's got to get this thing posted for us. Please follow us. Check out the website ohanapackers.org. Not sure what the shipping policy is to get things out to Europe, but we will try if you're interested.
Well, you reach
Support the
out, you
channel.
let me know, and I'll see what I can figure out on it.
Support the channel however you can. Check out the stories we post. Check out all episodes of this and Cheese Talk Radio. Please follow the podcast on your social medias at Ohana_Packer on Twitter, at Ohana Packers Edition on Instagram. Please follow us on Facebook so we can hit 100 followers and live stream there. Programming note, Joe and I will be the live stream, and that will also be the main show for next week, the recap show. Brian will be asleep after the game, so Joe and I will take you for the recap. Hopefully we'll be in a much better mood than we were the last time we did this dance a few weeks ago. Please follow the podcast in your favorite podcasting apps. Give us a like and a subscribe if you're enjoying what you're hearing. And, I've seen Joe post his requests for questions the last few weeks. Please send that to us if you've got any. We want to create the content you're looking for. The Packers look to have a statement win on the road to remain atop the NFC North, to remain atop the NFC conference, and to put one more pelt on their wall as opposed to the guy who will be trying to do the same to his wall. For Iowa Joe, I Mike would say go Pack Go and a low.
Green Bay hustle, grind it up. Hit the field, we don't bluff. Touchdown dances, feel the love. Jordan's got that MVP stuff. It's time for O, the up, let's go. Packers bringing that show. It's time for O, you know who wanna go.